You're on Team Human, conscious intervention in the machine. An opportunity to find the others, meet your neighbors, share in the bounty, and co-metabolize the sorrow. The more bleak the world looks on the screen, the more you have to step outside and experience the world for yourself. We can do this thing if we do it together. I'm Douglas Rushkoff, and we're all on Team Human. Hey, so I've been telling this one story a lot in my talks, but I realize I never shared it right here at home. So if you've heard it, cool. Here's an easy way to share it with those who you think might benefit or get a kick out of it. And if you haven't, well, it's become core to my approach to life, politics, activism, economics, and taking this world back from the systems devised to disconnect us from one another and reality itself. So let's do it as a thought experiment. Change the names so we can protect the innocent. My kid graduated middle school, and we got this big portrait of her for me to hang in the living room. But we have these old plaster walls, so I needed to drill a hole to hang it. Problem is, I don't have a drill. So what to do? Like any middle-class American, first impulse, go to the Home Depot and get the cheapest available drill for $39.97 plus tax. Some rechargeable piece of crap that I'll use once, then put it in the garage and never use it again. Or maybe I'll take it out in 2 years and find that it won't take a charge and then just throw it out. So to make one hole in the wall, I send kids into mines at gunpoint to get the rare earth metals to fabricate this thing. I spend God knows how much to ship the finished product from China to the US. I create a huge carbon footprint in the process and then throw the thing out so it can be dumped on a mountain of industrial waste in Brazil where some other impoverished children pick around the toxic garbage to sell, salvage, take it apart and find the single renewable element and then get a couple of pennies from a reseller who delivers it to a Chinese smartphone plant so some Silicon Valley company can claim it does green manufacturing. Great, I'm part of the problem. Or I could summon the courage to walk down the street to my neighbor Bob's house, knock on the door, and say, Bob, can I borrow your drill? Bob has a drill. He's got like 3 of them. He's that guy. His garage door's always open all weekend. He's got table saws and routers and sawhorses with doors that he's routing and banisters he's lathing. This is what he does. But no, like most of us, I'm scared to go knock on Bob's door. Not that he's gonna hit me or anything, but if I ask Bob to borrow his drill, he's not only gonna lend me his drill, he'll say, Doug, I'm coming over there with my drill and I'm gonna do this for you. He knows I'm a writer, a nerd. You don't know how to find a stud or set a sinker. It's a plaster wall, Doug. You can't just drill a hole. The picture's gonna come down. So he's gonna come over with his drill and his bits and his anchors and his stud finder. He's gonna find the stud, he's gonna pull out his drill, and it's a big metal drill that plugs in the wall like God intended. He's gonna drill the hole, set the anchor, screw in the thing, and hang the picture. Done. And he smiles, tells me he likes the way we face the couch in our identical house toward the living room window, and he goes home. But why don't I want that? Because the next weekend, I'm gonna have graduation party for my daughter in the backyard. I'm gonna be barbecuing chicken and ribs for our friends and family, and the smoke's gonna go over to Bob's house, and he's gonna think, what the fuck? I went over and hung the graduation portrait of Rushkoff's daughter, and he couldn't even invite me to her party? Are his ribs that fancy, fucking liberals? So I invite Bob and his wife and his daughter and his mother-in-law who lives with them and likes to sing. And they enjoy the ribs with us. But then some other neighbors are gonna see Bob and his family over at our house eating ribs and wonder why we invited Bob and not them. So I invite the whole block, and before long, they're bringing coleslaw and brownies and a Sonos speaker and a spin art set, and my daughter's graduation turns into a block party with everyone. And that's the nightmare, right? That's what we're afraid of, because now they're in our backyard. And I find out, oh, Bob's kid's having trouble in algebra, which my daughter could really help him with if she has any spare time. And his mother-in-law sees our piano and wonders if we want to do a sing-along. What are we doing next weekend? And Christmas is coming right up. If we're not careful, we'll have the whole block over for Christmas, singing songs in the living room, exchanging presents, and having a big meal together. Maybe our kids are going to like each other, even though they're in different friend groups at the prison yard, otherwise known as the school cafeteria. And this supposed nightmare is really the community ideal. This is the good life. Tocqueville's Democracy in America meets Norman Rockwell tradition meets Diego Rivera's solidarity. It's not just social, it's political. I just want to say you're welcome to the thousands of listeners who phoned, emailed, or written in to express your appreciation for Kobe dryer sheets. I know they've changed your lives and you just don't know how to respond. Really, you don't need to do anything more than use them instead of those plastic, chemical-filled, evil, and demonically possessed dryer sheets of the others. Actually, they're not even demonically possessed because they're not organic vessels. Kobe dryer sheets could be possessed if they were so inclined because they are real cotton made lovingly by appropriately compensated labor and renewable energy facilities and completely biodegradable. In a sense, every dryer sheet you buy is being rescued from spiritual attack or other exploitation. You can get a 10% discount by going to KobeDryerSheets.com and using the discount code RUSH10. It's economic. So maybe someone else at the party hears about how all this started, with me borrowing a drill. And then she gets the idea that we create a little tool library for the block. Why does every house need its own lawnmower, she asks. What if we just got 2 lawnmowers and 2 snowblowers for the whole block, and we share them? No one uses a lawnmower all the time. We could each take an afternoon, and we only pull out snowblowers 2 or 3 times a year. So now, instead of just me sending fewer kids into the mines for rare earth metals by borrowing a drill instead of ordering up a new one, the whole block of people is buying fewer machines, sharing things, doing favors for each other. We're replacing economic activity with social activity, learning each other's names and needs, creating a web of interactions and interdependencies instead of more personal expenses and corporate profit. And the more we do all this for each other down here on the local level, the more resilient we are, the less dependent we are on tortuously long, convoluted supply chains for our stuff. The less stuff we need, the less money we have to earn and the less we have to work. The more we know our neighbors, the safer our neighborhood, the less environmental toll we take living in the separate little homes of these suburban neighborhoods designed to promote individual consumption. And the more we know each other, the less easily we can be divided by ideological fictions and media-created factions. But when I tell this story at a conference, invariably some business person gets up and says, "Yeah, but with everybody sharing their tools, what happens to the drill company?" Before I can even say, "Fuck the drill company," he says, "They'll have to lay people off. Their stock will go down. And the old lady who's depending on the dividends of a lawnmower company stock for her fixed retirement income, she won't be able to support herself. And if everybody does this, the whole economy will contract." Well, it's logical, maybe. But since when are human beings here to serve the economy? The economy is here to serve us. If people don't have to work as much or create as much toxic waste in order to meet everyone's needs, that's not a bad thing, but a good thing. The 5-day work week, We know that's an artifact of the early industrial age, an arbitrary assignment of time, not some law of nature. And the old lady who's depending on stock dividends to survive in retirement? What kind of society requires people to earn enough money during their working years to support themselves completely independently in their later years? Besides, as we develop the bonds of community and sharing, that woman becomes part of the fabric of our interactions, not some obligation, but a privilege. We find out how useful she is as someone to watch our kids, give us advice, provide us with an opportunity to serve. She's not a liability, but an asset. We should be competing for the privilege of inviting her to lunch, or mowing her lawn, or walking her to the grocery store. We're putting the social back into socialism. It was never about the ism, but about the truly social nature of local transaction. And if it's not the businessman criticizing the negative impact of community on the economy, it's the progressive activist arguing that such small actions can never create system-wide change. Reviewers, they often critique the endings of my books where I offer these kind of solutions. They're saying they're unsatisfactory because they're too small to make a difference. They don't involve big policy changes or a macroeconomic rethink or some sweeping regulation. These solutions don't fix the big stuff and don't do anything to address economic inequality. So which is it? Is sharing too much of a threat to the global economy or too small to make a difference? Right? Both critiques are trapped in the mindset of scale, as if everything has to or is going to happen all at once. It doesn't, because unlike big top-down solutions, making these kinds of changes to our behavior, it slowly impacts systems from the bottom up. We have time to adjust. They're incremental and full spectrum. Companies don't simply fail all at once, but gradually lose their influence and dominance over our society and over the ways in which we interact. We can still be activists and march and do general strikes, but in the meantime, we become more resilient communities in the face of the inevitable shocks ahead. These are Kobe dryer sheets. I never used a dryer sheet before in my life, so I have no basis of comparison. I once opened a box of Bounce and got so sickened by the chemical odor, triggered even, that I just left them in the laundromat. And that's before I knew how those things ended up contaminating our landfill, rivers, and placentas with microplastic fibers and other forever shit. Then I met this guy, Tom, who was shooting a video in the studio downstairs, and it was for these dryer sheets that are part of a new movement to make 100% biodegradable cotton products that are good for people. He was interested in sponsoring Team Human, so I tried these things, and they're actually good. Not just the essential oils that scent these things, but the sheets themselves. They smell good, they feel good. You won't find their residue polluting the placentas of women around the world, just biodegrading and growing into new life. Use the discount code RUSH10 at KobeDryerSheets.com and get a 10% discount. It's all in the show notes. A neighborhood that knows how to work together and come to each other's aid is going to be in a lot better position when the next extreme weather event happens, particularly when FEMA's been defunded. If it takes 3 months instead of 3 days for government help to come, the community will have the means to hold out together instead of fighting over generators in the Home Depot parking lot in an every-man-for-himself battle for survival. We don't fortify our bunkers against each other, but find ways of sheltering one another. We identify more with our block than our house, running extension cords to those without generators and taking in the elderly. So yeah, borrowing a drill instead of buying a new one initiates a chain of events that really can change the world. A single act of heroic courage, of being willing to knock on someone's door and ask for something, to put yourself in someone else's debt and be able to tolerate a feeling of owing someone something which used to be understood as a good thing. It's why we bring brownies to someone when they move into the neighborhood. They don't need a plate of brownies. They just moved in. Their kids are sleeping in a strange place for the first time and don't need to be jacked up on Duncan Hines double fudge. We give them the brownies because it weaves them into the fabric of obligations. It's not the brownies, it's the plate that invites them to knock on our door and return it, maybe with something on it or a story. The gift is the invitation for them to do something for us, to be grateful, indebted, neighbors. In his prison notebooks, written under the repression of Italian fascism, Antonio Gramsci said, politics is downstream of culture. And nationalist extremists like Andrew Breitbart or Steve Bannon, they understood this one way, that we can use cultural fears and beliefs to shape the political landscape. But culture, it may be upstream of politics, but it's downstream of rapport. If you don't have rapport, then culture ends up being about difference. The high leverage point for system-wide change is not some big idea or belief, but a behavior, a way of interacting that assumes each of our welfares are mutually dependent, that understands it's not just more prosperous, but more fulfilling, more fun to do this thing together. To be truly human means to be on Team Human. Thanks for being on Team Human. Team Human is sponsored by Everyone's Earth, which is how we can afford this nice studio. But the work itself, meaning what I and the rest of the team do here, is actually supported by you. So please consider becoming a supporting member of the team by going to Patreon or to teamhuman.fm and clicking on support. Supporting members of the team get the ad-free Team Human team feed, access to our Discord, free access to live events, including a soon-to-be monthly Team Human Live in Manhattan, and all sorts of other good stuff. We're going to be building out our Patreon site to include my writing and other exclusive drops for members, like my talks and podcast appearances on other people's paywalled podcasts. But most of all, it's really just a way of providing us with the fuel we need to bring this to you, and the validation we need to know we're providing you with some value. Even if you can't contribute that way, I appreciate you listening, sharing what you think might be of value to your friends, and enacting these shared sensibilities in the world. I'm not coming up with this stuff so much as articulating what you already know but may not have yet put into words. So thanks for that too. It's a privilege to be metabolizing this moment in solidarity with you. You are not alone. I'm Douglas Rushkoff, and you've been on Team Human, our last best hope for peeps.